Oh, don't forget your tweezers.
Oh yeah. Don't lose those. Man, lots of ear bones today. That's crazy. Usually those are pretty rare. Oh my goodness, you guys. Alright.
There's your vertebrae too.
Yeah. You can put that other shell up there.
It's a tiny little one.
Just kidding.
It's really cute. Alright, let's see. Almost there. Oh, some of the colors in here are gorgeous.
Yeah.
Little coral. Alright, so. Sorry. Sorry.
Good.
I thought I had everything. I was mistaken. Alright. Cool. Are we recording?
Yes.
Are you recording me?
You are being recorded.
Oh my goodness. Alright.
Does it stress you out?
Yeah, a little bit.
Sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're fine.
I'm only recording your hands.
Alright, so we'll go through everything real quick. So we'll start up here with the humble invertebrates, right? Personally, some of my favorites. I love the invertebrates out here. So again, I talked a little bit about with this last crew, but you have a beautiful example of one of our knobbed whelks. So this is probably one of the more common species that we can find out here. But this is a carnivorous snail, the kind of we see quite a few of out here. They tend to feed on a lot of the bivalves that we have out here. So like our cockle clams or like the quahog clams. Basically they use the edge of the shell to kind of wedge their way between the two open halves of the valves, or the two valves, and kind of use their proboscis to start kind of eating away at the clam. And then this guy, yeah, so wow, that's itty bitty little knobbed whelk. So this is going to be, yeah, really young. So they all start out obviously about yay big. If y'all are, I'm assuming y'all are familiar with a little bit of the invert side of things, right? But they all start in their little egg casing about the size of the tip of that shell right there. You can actually see this one still has a little bit of that structure still preserved, and then they just grow layer on layer on layer on layer.
That beautiful proportion.
Yeah, that is gorgeous. All right, and then over here you have your marine mammal bones. So most of these in here are going to be from your whale or dolphin. Some of these bigger chunks, definitely something like akin to like a baleen whale, right? Probably rib fragments. And then this is going to be a little section of a, looks like a cervical vertebra of a whale, probably a larger, either whale or a large dolphin. This is the articulating surface. It's, if you want to imagine, it's broken almost perfectly in half. So the whole thing would be about yay big. Really nice example of that. And then over here, you actually have a cranial fragment of a dugong or manatee, probably leaning more towards dugong. What's cool about these guys, you can feel and see just how dense this bone is in comparison to some of the whale, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of this density actually has to do with, it's an adaptation for just their behavior, right? So they feed on seagrasses, they produce a lot of methane, they have a pretty decent layer of blubber, and so to counteract that buoyancy, they need that weight to their skeletal system to allow them to get that neutral buoyancy. But yeah, super dense, so dense in some cases that if you were to break it, it almost breaks like flint, like we were talking about. It has that conchoidal fracturing. So very cool find there. Here you have a nice little example of, nice big example of the inner ear bone of a dolphin. This is a large delphinid. This one could very well be in Chilorhiza, or killer dolphin, as we call it. To be honest, that is one aspect that I'm not as familiar with, but definitely inner ear bone, tympanic bulla. That would be paired with the periodic bone. It's kind of like the equivalent of our cochlea, right? It's got that fluid-filled chamber. Didn't find any periodics today, but we did find quite a few bulla, which I'm pretty happy with. Down here you have a couple of little ray teeth. So these are 2 of the 4 species that we can find out here. So this is the spotted eagle ray. Eagle ray tooth plate. You can see all those little ridges. So those are going to be the roots of the tooth plate. And that is going to be the grinding surface. And this one actually has some pretty good wear on here. So this one probably just fell out naturally, which rays, just like sharks, will cycle through their teeth over the course of their life as well. This guy is going to be from our cow nose ray. If you look very closely, you can see that little dimpled surface. But that, just like the eagle ray, that's going to be the grinding plate that would be exposed in the mouth. And they're going after things like our bivalves or our hard-shelled critters. They need those crushing plates to go after that. And then you've got a couple nice little carchariniform verts. So these again are going to belong to species akin to our reef sharks or our tiger sharks, right? But you can see these nice smooth surfaces with smooth surface on the side with these 2 voids on either side. These are going to be our carchariniforms. Again, lamniform sharks are going to be a little bit bigger. They're going to have struts running along the outer edge, and those lamniform vertebrae are going to belong to groups like our mako, our white sharks, or our meg lineage, right? But yeah, basically, like I mentioned earlier, just enough calcium in the crystalline structure of that cartilage to allow them to get permineralized, to allow them to get preserved. Here you have a nice little example of a sand tiger tooth. So he's a little busted up, but you can see little remnants of those little cusplets that I was talking about with the other group, right? And those cusplets just keep the prey from escaping out from between the space and the teeth.
That's the one I got at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The secondary, like, just point right behind it.
Yeah. That's awesome. So right next to them, you have your Carcharinus genus, right? So this is going to be that reef shark group that I was talking about. So again, 35 different species in here. One of those species, believe it or not, is this guy. So this is going to be our bull shark. This is probably the largest of our Carcharinus genus, and they are just diagnostic enough that we can identify them without having to go back and check the literature, because all of these guys are relatively identical. You have to sit down, and they kind of identifying the species kind of went more into like the morphological side of things of the rest of the fish. Here you have 2 really nice examples of our lemon shark. So this is a tooth from the upper jaw and a tooth from the lower jaw. You can see the tooth from the lower jaw has a little bit more of a curve to it, but overall, in comparison to the rest of the reef sharks, right, they just have a little bit longer of a prominent of a primary cusp. And then you'll notice, if you look a little bit closer later, you'll see serrations kind of running the length of these reef shark teeth. There are no serrations on the primary cusp of our lemon sharks there. Here you have your snaggle teeth from your snaggletooth shark. And this, I believe, was one of the first teeth that you picked up today. But this is a gorgeous lower tooth, or tooth from our lower jaw of our snaggletooth shark. This is about as big as they get, honestly. And then you have some really nice examples of teeth from the upper jaw. Again, we were talking about those serrations with that nice curved blade, talking about the fork knife combo of the shark world, right? And then down here, you have your tiger sharks. So you have some really nice examples of both Galiocerdo aduncus, as well as Physogalius contortus, right? So contortus gets its name because of that twisted primary cusp there. And Galeoceratodunkus can be identified just as a little squattier, a little beefier, right? So this is going to be the closest relative that we can find, closest extinct relative that we can find out here other than the modern species, Galeoceratocuvier, which looks very, very similar, just a lot larger in general. That's a gorgeous tooth. I love that color, personally. That's so cool. And then over here you have your assorted mako teeth. So all of those are going to be from Isurus, the Isurus genus. Most of those are going to be Isurus oxyrhynchus. It does look like you have one in there that could be what used to be called retroflexus. But that one is currently being contested name-wise, so they think it might actually be the specimens that we have in the museums might actually be a juvenile of Oxyrhynchus. So that one is being contested as well. And then up here you have your extinct white sharks. So again, this is going to be Carcharodon histalis, and this, I just noticed this as well, you also have some really nice lightning, quote-unquote lightning strikes on this tooth as well. So plant roots have actually come in contact with the enamel on the tooth and actually chemically weathered them. So that is really, really cool. It's sat close enough to the surface to actually have that effect. Up here you have some more bone bits that I didn't get to earlier. So here is actually going to be the frontal bone just above the eye, kind of between the eyes, kind of towards the back of the skull. This is going to be the top of the skull of a sea robin. It's a species of fish that was pretty common at this time, lives in very shallow marine environments. We still see their descendants out there today. And then this is going to be another really nice example of our sea turtle or loggerhead sea turtle shell. You can see this preserves some of the patterning on the exterior of the shell, nice and smooth on the interior, and then that spongy bone kind of running between the two layers. That's where all the nerve endings, the blood vessels would sit. That allowed them to, be ectotherms, kind of act as like a solar panel while they're kind of cruising around, right? And then finally, here you have your megatooth lineage. The majority of these are going to be Angustodons. So that tends to be the species that we find the most of out here. But you do have some that I would lean more towards Chubutensis. These two especially. You have a nice little, I talked about this out on the beach, but this is that Hubble tooth, right? So generally, if this was whole, you would see it's very heart-shaped, and it's a positioning in the mouth. It's like not quite right at the front, but a little bit further back. Really, really cool there. But these could very well be Chubutensis, and including this one in here that is still embedded in the matrix, which is really, really rare. You can actually see some fossilized shells and other little phosphate bits in there. That's really, really cool. You usually don't see that with teeth. The teeth tend to pop right out, but that's really, really neat. You have a gorgeous little juvenile posterior tooth here, probably from either Chubutensis or Angustodons, the grandfather of Meg, as well as some other fragments. I just noticed as I was talking about this Hubble as well, this is very likely, so this one was actually very likely digested or partially digested.
Oh, wow.
Right, so when you see this wear pattern where it's sort of pitted and it's kind of eroded from all sides relatively evenly, really the only way you see that kind of erosion is if it's been sitting in battery acid for a period of time, which is really, really cool. Occasionally it's associated, more often than not, it's associated with a little breakage here. So basically they bit into something, tooth broke, fell out as it was feeding, and then it sat in the stomach for a while, and then was either, came out one way or the other. But that is really, really cool. And then you have a nice little, this is a gorgeous juvenile Angustodon's tooth. You can see those cusplets that we were talking about in infinitum, right? But that is a really, really good example of those little cusplets. And again, by the time that Meg comes on the scene, and even Chubutensis here, you can see Chubutensis barely has any cusps. sort of there, right? But yeah, fantastic finds, guys. With another little, probably fractodon would be my guess, a little meg chunk.
Oh, thank you
But
so
do you have any?
much.
Yeah, of course, you all have.